Evening, everybody. How are you all doing? Hope you are well. Welcome back to another episode of Question Time Live. What's going on? So, got a bit to share this evening, as always. I've just been having a bit of a technical glitch beforehand, to be fair. The video clip I've got loaded seems to, or the software doesn't seem to want to play it. So, if you see me faffing, it's because I'm just trying to get that going. If not, we're going to have to wing it for the whole hour. Nothing new there, to be fair. And just go with your questions. So please, guys, because I've got nothing else up my sleeve for that one. So please feel free to fire in any questions that you've got. Seen a couple of good ones in there already. So you never know, we might spend the whole hour on that, because I think it's fair to say I've been a bit slack with the questions on the last few. I was quite gutted at that. It was a new, the next Nishikoi journal video that's due to go on the channel I was going to share with you, because we've tweaked up a bit of the editing, and I was keen to see what you all thought. But I will try and get that going anyway. And a few updates. So probably the biggest one, you will get to see some in-depth videos on this before long, but yes, the heating system, it's live. The guys got it done. I'm absolutely blown away with what they've achieved. And how the system's working, to be fair, it's just insane. Buffer vessels in, all the heat exchangers outside. Starts bar 2, because we didn't have the heat exchangers, but that's looking absolutely mega. And the speed at which it's heating things up, not even got everything insulated in yet. It's just kind of running open, and it's not even flexing. It's unbelievable. So I'm delighted. And for the first time for the past couple of days, we've just moved fish directly out of the greenhouses to outside, which is a big thing for us even in summer, never mind in the middle of winter. So going to make a huge difference. And looking at the up and coming shipping schedule, I would have been lost without making the decision to do it, to be fair. So happy days. Super happy with that one. On shipments, for everybody who was involved in the Taniguchi grow out last year, I've got some great news. Finally, it's even took too long this year, but they are arriving on Saturday. So what I'm going to do is get them settled in, and then I'm going to personally update everybody involved on that one, where their fish is at, bits and bobs, and sort out the details moving forwards. We've got a couple of options there for some added kind of bonus to that, for compensate for for the delays that have gone off. So really pleased to have that one boxed off, or close to being boxed off anyway. The NND calendars, yes. So I think it's fair to say I ballsed up with this one a little bit. So when they came to it, and even when I was talking to Fujo, he says, I went to order 50. He said, try 40. And we got 40 over, and every one of them went in 15 minutes when I popped them on the website the other day. So I do apologize to anybody who missed them. I have already got some more ordered. So they'll be here hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Going to miss February, that first page, possibly a little bit. It just depends how quickly they can get turned around. Hopefully there'll be a bit of the month to catch with them, but there will be some more available. Just bear with us on that one, folks. Do what we can. Last one to touch on, because I do know I've been mentioning this, and we're just struggling to get the date fixed down because of, again, shipping schedules and getting the fishing and making sure I've got enough time. But the up and coming big event of the year, Battle of the Breeders, as we've termed it, is close. The fish are all done. That's a given. We know, or I know what the fish are going to be. It's a phenomenal spread of stuff, really, in my opinion. Upped it several notches from last year. Venue's going to be the same, all fingers crossed. It's just we're not set the date. Price, we're going to in exactly the same. It's going to be $495 a ticket, and there is only going to be those 50 tickets again, like we had last year. So I'm just prepping you, because I know, out there you might be hanging off making purchases or wondering what's going off, or allowing for it in what you're doing. So just in case you want to, it is going to be coming, and that's the situation where it's going to be at. So at least I can eliminate those variables for you. Someone did make me very aware this week that I've kind of just been dangling the carrot and not getting anything fixed down, which I'm getting closer. But trust me, it's going to be a good one. And that's, the details. I think the main bit you need to know is price more than anything, and then the fact it is coming. So fingers crossed, I'll have some proper details for you all very, very soon, but it is high on the agenda here, to be fair. And yeah, other than that, we've had another Sakai auction this week. Oh, God, it needs to stop. It needs to stop. That was interesting. So they actually put quite a bit of the single coloured stuff in there from the mango line, which I'm sure if you've been around in koi keeping, you'll know Sakai and you'll know the mango line because it's just so commonly used these days. But that name, that particular name in relation to a lineage ties back to Sakai. You know, they're the guys that first coined it Super Mango. I believe along with Narita's help, actually. It was a bit of a voting contest for it all. So, yeah, initially producing Karashi, and then there's been all these different offspring of it. And they made it quite clear in advance in this auction that there would be the only non-red coloured mangoes would be in this auction. That would be it for the year, you know, other than a few more batches of the red ones. And they've even got the white mangoes, which I was struggling to figure out. Now, you guys tell me here whether I should have gone a bit harder at it, because in the end, I didn't succeed in getting any. I bailed out. I'm not going to lie about it because they were mental. So here we're talking what in essence is a Shiro Muji, completely plain white fish, which isn't exciting. But when you actually think back to what parent fish it comes from, I've seen one of these things at nearly a meter long, and it was just insane because you've got all that body element going on. But they're in essence a white Karashi Goi is where it's at. So that puts a different slant on it and what they can potentially do. But if I was presenting you with the opportunity to buy a plain white fish, even with all that behind it, would you have been interested? Especially given that the price of these things was nuts. There was 6 bowls of them, I think, all in all, and the price per fish was bonkers. I really did put a concerted effort in, and yeah, like I say, bailed in the end because I just didn't know if they would actually go down well. And then others in the mix were the the normal mango Karashi, Chagoi as well. I mean, Sakai Chagoi, that's a rare beast. Then of course the Benny Goys, which are just on another level. So it was just crazy, you know, what I watched, what I witnessed, the prices for these things and what they went for. I mean, it made a mockery of the Go Sankey, and that's saying something for what goes on in there. But just like to share it because it keeps you all, you know, in the loop. I've always said before, what happens at that end, you know, Sakai is at the very pinnacle of koi. What happens there does filter down and affect everything else, but it's also nice to know what's going on. And yeah, my goodness, absolutely bonkers. Dave just told me he would have had one. You see, there we go, Dave. I should have tried harder, mate, shouldn't I? There we go. There we go. Oh, sorry, that's one of the questions. So let's see who is in the house this evening. Steve, how you doing? Michael, good evening. How are you? We've got Ian, we've got Ray, we've got Ian. Plenty of you again, guys. The numbers have been fantastic, I must say, over the past few lives. Really, every week seems to be hitting it a bit higher. Yeah, which I do appreciate. Been absolutely full on at the minute as well. It's just that crazy time of year again where it's going absolutely nuts. You see, you had to go and say it, Mickey, didn't you? So no, there's no major anything from me tonight. There is a little bit of a surprise lined up. If you are on the WhatsApp group, I will put the I'll put the banner on the screen. Hang on. So yeah, a little bit of a surprise lined up. You're going to get nothing from me on here. I've got nothing away either, but feel free to join me after and see what I've got lined up. So yeah, if you're not, you can just scan that QR code and it'll automatically get you in there. And I'll make sure any new invites are being accepted before we get started. But yeah, I was, to be fair, thinking of giving everybody a week off, but I just think, why not? If we've got it, I might as well show you it. Yeah, happy days. So let's, I'll get on with a few questions, first of all, and just try and tinker with this video. I don't got a feeling is going to work for us, but hey-ho. Let's see what we can do. So first question, Keith. Hi, if you enclose a backy shower, what effect would this affect gas exchange? Thanks. Yeah, absolutely does. So the whole point of the gas exchange of a shower, and it was once explained to me to a guy who worked in sewerage creating big systems. You don't need loads of little vents in it, but what you do need is a solid clear in and out for airflow. That's it. So if you close everything down, like you've probably seen my trickle towers that I use, the homemade ones across all the systems that are outside primarily, they are closed systems. There's no contact with air, so they cannot aerate. There's no way, even the water smashing inside, there's no contact with the atmosphere to generate any oxygen in there other than at the point of return out where that comes. So yeah, at that point, they're just like any other biological filter that will consume oxygen but won't actually create anything. So if you've got a shower that's fully enclosed and you've not got the airflow to it, even if you've got a top open and then nothing else, that's not going to create the airflow enough to truly get the oxygenation that you need. You will get a bit of gas off, obviously, if there's a way of getting it out. But again, if it's fully enclosed and you're trapping it all in, that's not going to work either. But yeah, for the airflow, for the oxygenation, you've got to have a clear in and out pathway. It doesn't matter what it is, it's not got to be huge, but it's got to be there to get it through. So yeah, bear that in mind. If that's really what you're looking for out of it, you can often, and I have played with the oxygen meters to see, what the oxygenation level's like around the point of impact there of water hitting, even on my big showers, and it's marginal differences, to be honest with you. I think the big thing about all this for me, and that is with showers and spray bar returns and stuff like that, it's more about the gassing off effect that you can do, just gassing off CO2 and other things, which really has a big impact. And in showers in general, it's that gassing off effect, I think, but you've really got to be pummeling water at rates I don't often see done over here. I only seen done in Japan, and at that point, you can get the nitrogen off, you can get the CO2 off, and that's what really helps the water and the effect of the shower overall. But good question there, Keith. Thank you very much. Let's see what else we've got. Looking forward to receiving the energy calendar. Yes, you will, and I hope you enjoy seeing a few of my fish amongst all the ones on there, buddy. All right, see what else we've got. There we go, Dave. Ricky, I seem to have a lot of trouble with shimmies. Doesn't seem to matter if it's cheaper fish or expensive fish. Is it genetics or water? Right. So I think in your case, possibly there, Dave, from what you're saying, is it could be linked more to your water, because shimmies is not something I have a big problem with. I will tend to see it, if it is a problem, I will link it more to the fish, because I know it's not something I have mega issues with. So often it might be certain Benny types can be more prone to it. So the really deeper reds tends to be, they're a lot more prone to a lot of problems, like Ikui as well, to be fair. But they're the ones that can tend to shimmy. But I see this, and I see it again, the whole hard water, soft water for Sumi or whatever it is. I put this down to more what's the makeup of the water, more than anything. The stuff that isn't often looked at is where we need to be looking to more understand it, because I see soft water, like with Shisuis, for example, fish that's kept in water that's, from the pH and the TDS deemed soft and more acidic, absolutely trashing Shisuis, whereas my water's not like that. It's a lot more neutral, and I can keep them absolutely great. So I think it's more above and beyond what we're looking at and the actual makeup behind it all that generally does it. So yeah, if you're having problems, I think it's more going to be down to what's going on in your pond, Dave, from what you've said there, mate, to be honest, unfortunately, to tell you that. Unless there is a particular breeder's fish that you're tending to go for, that could be an issue in there as well. So if you are tending to stick just to one or two breeders and getting the same result, that might tell you there that you need to potentially look at others for your water. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. A lot of breeders do that in Japan. It's why certain areas in Japan only produce certain fish, because they know the particular water there is good for it. Like Uwanuma is a big area that way out, where you tend to have quite a few showa breeders because the water tends to be good for Sumi. It's how they are. Say they don't work with science too much in that thing. They just know from experience, what kind of ponds do what. It's like Takano's claim that, he knows what mud is good for what particular sort of varieties from all his experience in mud pond construction over the years. Don't doubt him for 1 minute, but I think we like the more science and data-driven approach outside of Japan or outside of koi breeding in Niigata, to be fair, where it's not, trying to explain what it is exactly in there that's doing it, but they've not really got the answers. It's all witchcraft and wizardry, to be fair. Right, what we got? Terry, good evening, mate. How are you? Craig Evans, is there a chance a Beko can develop extra Sumi? Mine has 3 Sumi patches. It's a small Nisai with no more visible. I assume not likely anymore would develop, but thought I'd check its possibility. Yeah, Craig, I mean, I don't know. Again, I've not seen the fish. I don't know the breeder. I don't know the history. But all I would say to you is the fish is Nisai. So you are a fraction of the way through the fish's journey, and give it time, mate. Give it time. If it's the kind of Sumi that I've gotten, on a Sakai fish, quite a few Sakai fish at the minute, where it kind of materializes in the surface of the skin, it will only start as like small shimmies, and then it's slowly growing volume, or you might get a few of them around one area, which will slowly block together. But that fish, Nisai, there's a chance it's not even a full 24 months old yet if it's aged correctly. It is no age at all. We're talking realistically 5 years, even in the game we're in with Sakai producing what they're doing. Still 5, 6, 7 years is that kind of sweet spot for hitting fruition. And Sumi will be affected by so many things, even down to UV. UV can also affect Sumi in a big, big way. Temperature, but like I say, age, the water makeup, loads and loads of things. But ultimately, that fish is so young, you cannot write it off yet. You've got to give it time, give it chance. If you get into the realms of sort of 3 years, 4 years old, and there's really no change, then you can start to think, right, this is possibly not going to do it. That's not to say the fish itself won't do it. It might be that in another pond with different water, it might just be the trigger to start it. But ultimately, you're not far enough into the journey yet to go writing it off. So stick with it, Craig. Let's have a look. It looks like Neil's in the house this evening. Nice one. Been playing on his digger this week. Are you again? Johnny, good evening, mate. How you doing? Ian, let's have a look. Hi, Ricky. I know it's in the latest issue of Koi Talk magazine that Mitsunori spoke about the Kaku bloodline, how he's working on this. Do you have any plans on bringing some of these over? Yes, is the answer. I have been watching this for a long time, from it being just a few fish to progress into what it has done. And trust me, it's now at a point where you've got to take note of it. He's doing some serious stuff with this variety. The characteristics are insane, as you'll probably expect with this. The body seems to be really coming on. He is really starting to nail it. And I think you're not far away. He's won a couple of really good prizes this year. I think it was Nogi-Osai. He's bagged it, done well. But yeah, hats off to him. It's nice to kind of see it progress how it has done over a long time period now as well. It's not just overnight. It's, all of a sudden, I think the awareness gets raised. You start getting some idea. They come to fruition like that, but it's forgetting the time that's gone before it, of kind of hobby breeding, then deciding to take it more seriously. But over that time, he's developing, refining, until it gets to a point now where he is obviously throwing really, a lot of resource at it. So yeah, I think at the minute, there's a couple of lineages I'm really sorting, farms I'm focusing on with that stuff. It's still a big one for us for sure. I've got a cracking batch of them growing on again at the minute. But yeah, let's see what comes in future. I'd say this year there's going to be a big one, Kaku wise, that I've got coming in. And then there's a few smaller lineages. And it's generally what takes my interest at any given point. But yeah, let's see what happens with this. I'm sure at some point they'll come in, because the curiosity of me having them and seeing what I can do with them will get the better of me in that respect, as it always does. Who dares wins. I presume that's referring to the white mangoes, but yeah, you weren't paying the bill for them. My God, it was crazy, really, really crazy. There's a good question. I know it's not an essential bit of kit, but what are your thoughts on Clarity Protein skimmers? I really rate them, to be honest with you. I mean, that's a way there for me that in the current state of things with our water and not, want to minimize the impact of putting too much fresh in to keep the ecosystem alive and not interfering. Foam fractionation like that is an absolutely superb way of removing some of them organics in a natural way. And there are loads of devices out there that can do it, but the Clarity for years it's just been superb. I installed a few back in the day when I was dealing with private clients, and they are a superb bit of kit. What they do, they really perform when you get the setup right, which is the same as anything. A bit of tinkering, the performance was second to none. Do a great job, and you would notice a huge benefit. I do believe the original units, I don't know if anybody's actually distributing them in the UK anymore, if they're even being made, but I do know there was some knockoff versions kicking about, which did come in a lot cheaper as well, to be fair. Again, I don't know how they performed. I never dealt with any of them, just the originals, but they... great bit of kit. Really, really are. I'd recommend that kit. Foam fractionation is a great way, in reducing them organics. If you can find other ways, and there are other ways, you can create it when you've got that kind of water, hitting a surface, because that's basically what you need to create a stable foam that you can then remove rather than it be on the surface of the pond. And that's what the Clarity does. It creates a stable foam at the bottom of the unit. Then it's got the skimming device that takes the foam off and puts that purified water back into the pond. Superb. That's the concept. You can work backwards from that and do it even with a trickle tower that you've got coming down at the bottom. If you've got a base of water, you create it there, and even just forcing it back through a 2-inch tube and sort of teeing off there will create a stable foam that you can then get rid of. So yeah, but the concept itself is a great one. Good question. Hi Ricky, I'm having to put KH buffer in, are you having to put KH buffer in the grow ponds 3 times a week? I do, to keep stable and not much once. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's the guys pretty much test it every other day. It's ripping out that fat. I really do need to get, trial one of the showers just running pure oyster shell, I think. So I've got some serious kilos of it in there just to absorb more of this acid. But overall, the consumption in there is huge because, it's a small body of water really for everything that's going on. And it's the bit that gives and needs the work. So I like to test it regularly to stop it getting too low. Although it is hard to get it high, but it's a constant dosing of the buffer, so we don't elevate things too quickly and too fast, because you see very quickly there how the fish will go off the food for a couple of days normally before it really comes back in. They don't like big changes in pH coming too quickly at all. Eddie, no, you haven't missed much, buddy. Don't worry. Jason, what is your favorite lineage of Showa? Yeah. So I've got to Dainichi Issa's right there as the two. It's just a given. The qualities in them are immense. And I think you see now they're becoming the base. Dainichi Issa is the base of Odakan Showa. This is what happens as other people start breeding, that now entrenched in Koi. They are the big lineages, and the characteristics are just superb. Then there's loads of other niche lineages around. Nogami this year is coming strong with Showa, just as one example, because they're putting a bit of energy into it. They've always done it, but it's kind of almost been like, again, a hobby breeding. Produced some stunning examples over the year, but it's one or two. But now they've had a mix up with some parent fish this year, and they really, bigger spawning, looking absolutely great. I say Dainichi, I've got a particular fondness for Dainichi Toyota. Now, yes, this is all basically the Dainichi Toyota operation, runs separately out in Toyota City, which is very close to, it's about an hour from Nagoya. And what you've got there is fish that all originated from the main Dainichi lines, the parent fish, but he now has these parent sets that are becoming famous in their own rights, are unique to Dainichi Toyota. So you've got Kinsen, for example, is one of his. The Miyabi line is one of his, but these all originate from the bigger, more historic Dainichi lineages. But yeah, I really like what Hiroshi's doing with Showa, to be fair. And I know now, you know, particularly he's challenging to make big Showa, because when I was there with him last time, he actually raised a really great point of how many places are actually really producing really good jumbo Showa. You know, you've got Dainichi, Niigata, you've got Issa and Momotaro, realistically. Ueno does produce big Showa, but the body's very questionable, to be fair. Yeah, and when you think there, that's one hand. We're talking one hand for producing jumbo Showa in the whole of Japan. So he's actually challenging this year with a new line that is called Pandora, which has crossed out his Showa line with the famous, very big Tancho Showa of Mariju, which is really interesting because Mariju lineages, although he's not a farm, you know, massively spoken about, their lineages has got some really, really old historic stuff there, you know, which is pretty cool when you dig into it. So that's going to be really, really one to watch in future. This year is the first generation, first spawning. It's not guaranteed to work, but Hiroshi's got this vision in his head, and it could take him 10 or 15 years to eventually get there with a lot of tweaking in between. But yeah, good stuff happening in it. And that's just stuff I'm always looking at. And then curiosity gets the better of me. And it's like, you know, we should try them and see what happens, but not too soon. I don't like to jump too soon with a lot of this stuff because they might just end up being a load of shite, to be honest. But yeah, we'll see what it is. But for now, you know, it's sort of Dainichi. It's NND's another one, obviously a big one for me. Their Showa, you'll see I've got one of the farm's top toe sites actually on the calendar for those that have got one. Stunning piece, and it's just unique, you know, dating back to being Umo Showa when he was not part of NND. They had a really quirky characteristic to him. They was so distinctive. I feel like it's a Showa I could pick out from a crowd quite easily. And that lineage isn't the main one in production anymore at NND, but we're now at a point where they're spawning from a really, really strong Dainichi fish, which has been the base of this new lineage. And this year I've seen more numbers than ever before. But again, I just like the quirkiness that parent has thrown. The head and Shiroji were the two standout, and the body size, to be fair. And that originated, as I say, from Dainichi. But yeah, and I've seen them characteristics in the offspring. And that, again, appeals to me then. And some of the ways I've seen the Sumi characteristics develop, it's exciting. And that's what I like to see, you know, in fish. And that's, I think, the nice thing about what you've got with these different lines when you get into it, it's not just a Showa. You know, even amongst Dainichi, you've got parent sets amongst their lineage that will throw different characteristics. And when you get into it, that's some of the stuff that's really, really cool and nice to watch play out in the fish that you purchase. That's not like me at all. There's been a few people selling them recently, funny enough. Love it, absolutely love it. I've made no effort to try and get the video, so let me just have one more crack at it while I'm on here. I think it's just going to tell me to go away, to be fair. Yeah, it's not liking that. No, sorry, folks. That's going to be a no-go with this week's snippet, which is frustrating, but we'll try again for next week. I don't know what's quite gone off with that one. All right, let's have a look. Gary got a Momotaro Showa 5 years old Sumi. Looks like it's going to come, then fades in summer. Have you any knowledge of Momotaro Sumi? Yeah, now the Momotaro, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is back from the earlier days, but it wasn't the best Sumi. It really wasn't. They created the size, they got the Bene, the Sumi wasn't the best. And this is what I actually saw, in my opinion, of what happened when Dainichi went to Momotaro for a parent fish, which was then the base of the super monster line at Dainichi. And I'd already formed this opinion of the Sumi, that the Sumi was quite all sat in the surface, basically. There wasn't a lot of depth to it. Now, that can still look very black and very inky, but it's not got the same kind of depth as Dainichi Sumi did, where it comes from deep in the skin and forms at the surface. And that kind of Sumi is very, very sensitive to temperature changes, environmental changes. That's the sort of Sumi that when you put that fish in a blue vole or a shovat, it doesn't hold up. And I personally felt we really saw that in the first couple of probably the first 3 generations of Dainichi Super Monster, because that was the Momotaro characteristic playing through. And now I've seen those fish, the Sumi does develop typically to other Dainichi lines now, although they've worked on it enough that the Dainichi qualities really came back in the Sumi, which, you know, they're years and years and years down the line with that now. So it's to be expected. But yeah, that I think that's probably what you're working with there. Like I say, Momotaro recently not really had any shower to comment further on where that's at. And even the last time I was at Momotaro, there wasn't a lot of shower kicking around either. So, but yeah, from them early days, and you're probably dating back, you know, 5 years, you know, it's probably good timing. That's my, you know, thoughts on where that was. So that's probably what you're up against there, Gary, to be fair. Chris, could you talk about the breeder Saito? You're there with Lee in the fall, was amazing. Yeah, great little place. So I was first introduced to Saito by the Genji brothers. It was actually, I was having lunch with them, and this guy was in there and went down. And actually at that time, it was a funny story because I mean, the first year we went in, there was no more than looked like maybe a 2,000-gallon preformed pond in a dark garage. And he told me he got Ginrin Yuki Asagi. And my God, back then, there were none of these around. So I was dead excited. And I was with my dad at the time. That's how long ago that was, because he's not been for years. And we got down there and lifted this tank up. And I kind of looked at my dad and went, the Ginrin Shiro Muji, never been Ginrin Asagi. So yeah, one's from Ginrin Kohaku that had failed now. Yeah, it was a bit of and that's all that was really on offer as well. So kind of left it at that. And then, you know, you watch these things from afar over the years and seen him cropping up with quite a few koi show wins here and there. Some nice fish in the breeders' auctions. So yeah, paid him a visit again, dropped in, and it really upped his game. And what I loved was it was just like, you know, the passion. When you get there, he's really strict. You will not enter his fish house until you've dipped your feet and he's sprayed your hands down, which is always nice to see. And then it's just as you get talking, I bought some great Nisai there 1 year. One of the Sankis I still actually have around, swimming around at Koi Wholesale. And it was, you got talking to him and his parent fish, getting the parent fish up on his phone. And you could see he'd been investing heavily in that area. You know, big Momotaro, Kohaku, Sankis from Marido. And he's now even working on some really quirky stuff as well. You know, he's produced some Ginrin Makashis that are just out of this world. Really unique coloration. And again, you look back, Ginrin Karashi has actually done a superb job of those, to the point where at the small sizes this year at the koi shows, he was beating Dainichi with their yellow monkeys, which he found super impressive. And it is, to be fair, given how good they are. But yeah, I mean, Kohaku is the main production there. He's got Showa line. I've not seen any more Sanki since I bought the one that I've got, which is a shame because that fish has been superb. Let's say you've got Ginrin Karashi. He breeds a few metallics he mucks around with, but the guy just got no space. You know, there's I think 3 ponds in there altogether, and it's in a garage. You know, one part has got daylight, the other part hasn't. It's just bonkers what he's got going on, but produces some phenomenal fish for it. So I think he's great. I can see he's got huge potential in future. It's just whether he can expand out from where he has, whether he wants to even, you know, who knows. But yeah, other than that, there can be some great fish to be found there. And he's a top bloke, really is a top bloke. Michael, I've got old school filtration. Can you tell me how a fluid bed works and its benefits? So yeah, I mean, for me, I think the big thing here is, and this is down to maintenance, but so much made sense to me with a fluid bed when I first kind of looked at the concept in the Nexus, which is what, you know, kind of introduced it to us all. And for me, they just, you look at, even when they're aerated, the old multi-bays and vortexes, you know, I hate the kind of look of this stagnant look that they can tend to have. And there can be settlement in there. It really can happen through chambers of jack mat and all the rest. You're not stripping everything out. So obviously we've got this big thing with biological performance. You don't want, you know, anaerobic mess sitting on top of it because you're just choking it. You know, you've got bacteria there that's aerobic, needs oxygen. An anaerobic mess just sat on your media, basically killing off the functionality of it. So in a nutshell, that's where that's at. So you see that concept, and then, you know, the concept that bacteria does die. How does it get off of that media at one point? So I kind of saw this the first time I fitted a Nexus and I started seeing ponds running them. I just saw that the fish looked different. And obviously got this heavy kind of air injection going into the chamber. We've got the K1 renewing itself with that steady movement, the protected surface area in the middle. Say the steady movement where the gentle collision of the media allows that dead bacteria to drop off, and newer hungry feeding bacteria come in. And then still to this day, I've never, you know, the two Nexus I've had running for donkey's years now, have never had any sediment collection in the bottom of them. And that's just the motion of the fluid bed not allowing it. So you've got this ultra clean chamber with no, obviously particles pass through it, absolutely. But the idea of the fluid bed is they all get stuck in the biofilm and they'll be consumed. This is when I often say biological filtering is one of the best forms of mechanical filtration. That's because those bacteria and rotifers and everything that grow in that biofilm can consume, you know, particles down to 1 micron. You cannot do that with mechanical filters. So they play a huge part in it, and that is the food source that they need also to thrive and grow and develop. And it's just over the years I've seen it. I've seen the environments it creates, and for me, it's a core fundamental part now of any system that I'm building. It will be there no matter what I think to showers, which again, a great addition. I would never just go solely shower typically in a real raising pond. Always where possible, I would want a fluid bed. I say full of K1, obviously there's more options out there on the market now. I'm still just using original K1. I was just reminded me, I've got 5 bags of the new K Plus, I think, in my shed. I just never got round to switching it out, to be fair. So yeah, you can look at all that. You've got the aaza, Helex, all this. Just for me, it's kind of one of them things I don't like to mess, as you know, full well. But, you know, it's not broken. Don't try fixing it. And it's just that environment it creates, and K1's always done, is why that's just my default go-to. No doubt at some point I will try out some of these things. I mean, aaza recently been talking a lot to me about the efficiency of the media, wanted me to have a bit of a play. So time will tell with that one as to what we can get done. But yeah, amazing. I would recommend a fluid bed to anyone. Just getting the design right is really important. There's little bits you can do, and they've got an efficient depth. So as I was explained, this was by Jasper EA. I believe it was kind of 1.2 meters, a really optimal level of depth to a fluid bed that will actually help create a chamber that can efficiently oxygenate water as well. Because you naturally think that, you know, all the oxygen is consumed by, or I did certainly, by the bacteria in there. Well, it's not, and they can actually be a great oxygenation device. But there's an optimal depth for that, which not a lot of people can tend to achieve, certainly on like kind of combi systems and things these days. But even still, you know, not all that oxygen you're pumping in is being consumed at that point, and they are great for doing that. It's important now. This is something, again, I see you don't want to overboil the stuff with the air, and you don't need the fine bubbles, because this is the mistake I made when we made our the sort of air distribution bars for it. We've just got the LPD tubing that's drilled, and loads of things. I put too many holes in to begin with, thinking the more the better. And what it didn't was it wouldn't produce the size of the bubbles enough to drive the media around. But you just want a delicate, ideally avoid any flat spots where possible, but you just want a very gentle bubbling around, not the mass of eruption that I often see where there's an air diffuser cranked up to its max and it all just piles up through the middle, shoves the media to the side, and then that doesn't move very well. The air tubes I've got are distributed rectangularly across the whole thing with a bar through the middle, so it covers every area, and it's just a very gentle bubble in there, like you see in the Nexus, really. And that's where you're getting the absolute most from it. So if you can create it like that, amazing. And you might see a lot of benefits, but like the overboiling is just too much, and it can be too much disruption for the media as well. You know, remember, this is a delicate ecosystem you're forming in there. You're just smashing it to pieces with air erupting through the center of it, which is how I see a lot of sort of combi drum systems built these days. And I don't rate it. I think it's a pretty shitty job, to be fair, when anybody who knows anything about them knows it's not the best way to aerate a chamber like that. Right, just bear with me, folks, while I catch up. Evening, Abby. How's you guys might be in for a fair bit of snow up in sunny Scotland. I'm not sure if it's going to arrive here. Hopefully, for the sake of all of us, it stays away completely. But yeah, them boys tend to get it bad. Michael Kerr, apart from the Black Zeus Sunnybank have in, what's the one variety you favour for a pond? There's always a fish in every pond. You should have. Me, I'm still looking for a Comonrio. Yeah, I mean, Comonrio, Michael, they're beast. But actually, they have Sunnybank Koi's got a Zeus that I'm going to say I let slip through the net, to be fair. It's come on absolutely insanely well and looks bonkers. I don't know if they've sold it yet, but what a mega fish that is. One pond that everyone should have. Yeah, I think it's a bit of yellow for me, to be fair. I just think it adds, well, generally, to create that kind of visual pond that looks absolutely, to the eye, you just go, wow, because you've got that right mix of colour. It's got to have a solid Gosanki base. That's really important, because without the red, it never seems to build up properly. So a solid base of Gosanki, then you can't beat a cracking Yamabuki amongst it. You really can't. Or you know, the strong kind of mango coloured Karashi Gois, absolutely nailing it with something like that. And of course, a bit of Shirutsuri, get that bit of black and white in there, and then potentially even a Goshki. You know, just a subtle mix of those really vibrant colours popping through it. Absolutely mega. But I think the yellow, like a Karashi, or like I say, a big Yamabuki, just sets it off a treat. You know, you get that amongst the kind of red and white, and just wow, it's amazing. But yeah, good question. And yeah, honestly, guys, check it. I think it's on their website, that Black Zeus. If Neil's still watching, I'm sure he'll put it in the comments. But what a fish that is. And yeah, looking at it, thinking, balls up there. Dan, hi. I'm trying to find a good Ginrin Sorogoi, but the last couple I had have had turned out a bit of cheaper. Any tips on what to look for in the best breeder? Yeah, I think possibly one of your problems there, Dan, is that a lot of them do come from Achiba naturally. There's not that many people producing, or anybody from what I can think of, a pure Ginrin Sorogoi line. So yeah, it's hard to say really. Just really look closely for. It's quite rare for the colour to develop, to be honest, but just look very closely for any signs of a little spot of colour anywhere. Belly and all, just check the lot, and you don't want to see a single speck. So that's as much advice as I can give you in that respect. Coda's a very good breeder for Ginrin Sorogoi. He's got a great line going on with all that kind of stuff. But again, the Ginrin Sorogoi will just come from an achiever spawning. So do bear that in mind. But it is rare that that colour will materialise over time there, unless it was just there quite subtly and then it's kind of thickened eventually, which could potentially happen. Koi, good evening. Evening. Your house polytunnels you use, do they block out most of the UV? If they do you rotate between the indoor and outdoor grow ponds? No, they don't block any out. That's why I like that structure, because it's just a clear visqueen sheet, doesn't block out any UV. As far as I'm aware, it's only really polycarb that does that. You can get the UV transmission cut through it. So yeah, for me, it's not blocking any, and then it's up to me, you know, what I want to do with any shading, sort of control that UV at that point. But it is why I like those particular tunnels. You do get different types of polythene sheets that some bounce it back, some trap heat in the thermal sheets, all kind of things like that. I don't do any of that. It's just the most basic visqueen sheet. And yeah, works a treat. It's one of the factors as to why I do achieve that really high quality finish to the color and the skin luster. You know, really important stuff, that is. Hi Ricky, could you recommend a good KH test kit? Yeah, we use Colombo or NT Labs. They're the ones I've used for years across the whole testing spectrum. So they are the two that I would recommend. Let's have a look. Have you ever used the aaza biopads, Chris, biomedium? If so, how did you get on with them? They say they deal with a lot more food than K1. Yeah, again, I've heard it. It's a conversation I'm having. Again, always looking to try new stuff and improve efficiency where possible. Although I just tread very, very carefully with this stuff, because what I wouldn't want to do is lose a season with a pond not performing. That's never smart in the slightest. But yeah, they look interesting. Obviously, reminded me a lot of the biochip that K1 Evolution Aqua produced, although it's very different, I believe, in how it's supposed to work. The biochip, from what I remember, was less about biological filtration and more about this development of the rotifers inside it, which were great for particle consumption. But yeah, you know, who knows if we get something done, maybe try some out at some point. But as much as I do like trying new stuff, it's always very sort of tentative. They've really got to plead a case to me up front that this is going to do the job. And normally when I'm quite upfront about that, it's amazing how many companies with various stuff just tend to back away and don't stand by their product. And do always find that pretty fascinating. I'm not saying that's the case with aaza. Like I say, we're having a lot of chats at the minute because the guy there that I know is really keen to for me to try some of this stuff. So who knows? What are your thoughts on oyster shells? Great. Like I say, they're not a buffer. This is what you've got to bear in mind. You're not going to put them in and massively elevate your KH. Oyster shells are an acid mop. So that if you put them in there, what they're going to do is absorb. They're going to put another layer. So you've got your pH, your KH is in front of it, keeping it stable. And then ultimately you put oyster shell there, which then helps stabilize the KH more. That's where you're at with them. But you do need a certain volume to get that working really efficiently. And it's normally quite a lot of them. I don't know the exact ratio, but I do know in the past when you've just used a few, you don't get the full benefit and they don't last forever. Normally Japanese breeders change theirs every 6 months because they say they tend to go soft, and at that point they're not as efficient. So yeah, if you are using them, don't forget to change them pretty frequently. Let's have a look. Lights, yes, Stephen. Did you find any info about a lighting to replicate? I have been doing a lot of reading on this one, and we're getting there. And there's a product I'm hoping to get in from Japan at some point this year to try out on a couple of hobbyist ponds that I know are having major issues with this. So I will hopefully at some point, and it's quite a cost-effective solution from what I've seen, and energy efficient, which can be a big problem with some of this lighting. So yeah, really, really excited for that. Heading in the right direction, and I'm learning quite a bit on it. After seeing the video of Odakan using Takano Sankyu as female Kaku, what's the reason behind this? Is it to get better bodies or to strengthen the belly? Yeah, it can be. Obviously, when you mix the two, you will get both out of it, which is one reason sometimes for sort of efficiency. But yeah, I mean, typically Sankey, Kaku can share similar body lines, not always, but depending where they've come from. They are naturally there. Those two are more similar to what you've got in Showa. Showa are a completely different beast altogether. But yeah, it can be just mixing qualities there, but there's no detrimental issues that come from mixing Sankey with Kaku. Not like when Mamero mixed Kaku with Showa. That's a bit of a different beast there because you're changing a lot of stuff, but fundamentally they're very, very close in the first place. So yeah, what will be the vision there is just in like Sakai's case, you see a lot of breeding of Sankey with Kaku. But what you've got there is them trying to maintain the Sakai line by basically inbreeding in essence, but keeping the blood separated because they'll look at the origins of those lines. And that's what will be the base of decision there, which goes with which, is to stop that process happening. In this case, that's the formation of a new line. So my guess, without speaking to him, is that he's gone and put two fish with the characteristics he needed with the hope of producing both out of it, because as far as I'm aware, the breeding operation there, he's not got a mass expanse of space. So to dedicate to just one variety and one sets and things like that, probably not a smart move for him. Koi Vlogs, any tips? What is best option in Sakai auctions? Buy mixes of Tosai, one piece with Azakari. And what do you think of Sakai mixing all this Sankey cobbler? Yeah, there we go. I just spoke about that bit and see that in there. But yeah, you can't. Buying the batches is the one, to be fair. If you want anything that's kind of sensible, that's obviously what I've been doing and managing to break those down for people. But it's just still crazy, you know, per batch. The single fish, once again, this time were just bonkers. I mean, when we're talking, you know, several thousands of pounds for fish that 11 and 12 centimeters, although there's all the guarantees in there, it is bonkers. The way you do have to look at it is exactly the way you should do. Really, that you are buying a Nisai and Sakai Nisai, your money just goes nowhere with that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot along the way that can go wrong. So it is fraught with risk. And again, you don't know, you know, male, female, absolutely no chance. But it's all part of the fun. Like I say, getting the Nisai at Sakai is not something you'll see me doing in a hurry. It would just be the odd piece every now and again if I decide to go a bit mental. But yeah, it is bonkers again what I've just witnessed over 2 days. And yeah, I don't know why I thought, because obviously they're on the back of some major wins at the All Japan this time as well. And it's just the stuff that keeps feeding the machine. It's wild, really, really wild. At work, there we go, mate. Hopefully that's making the time pass a bit better for you. Me rambling on. Evening, Alan. How you doing? Oh, here's one to get me going, Kevin. I've heard with the Nexus you get fines in the pond. What would be the best way of getting rid of fines, please? I'm probably not the best person to answer this because, quite frankly, I don't give a shit about fines in a pond. All our definitions of fines, you probably haven't actually got fines. My definition of fines is the stuff that will make your water look cloudy and a little bit white. That is fine particles. I think what most people call fines are just called particles. And a lot of the time, to be honest with you, in Nexus, it's just a case of getting the maintenance regime right and getting the flow rates right. And this is where a lot of bad information comes around, but they always work. The slower you pass water through a Nexus, the better it will work. You want to be looking at a flow rate of once every couple of hours minimum. And even if you take it to once every 2.5 hours, you know, and that time you have to compensate them for a slow flow through a drain. But you can purge a Nexus easily enough, so that's not a big problem either. And I think one of the issues personally for me is that they tend to be, I find the easy incredibly efficient in there with the K1, especially when it matures. You've got that stickiness of the biofilm. They're just too small, I think, quite frankly. They're obviously, you know, clogging, and it's the amount of cleaning that possibly needs to be done to keep them working super efficient. But the biggest one I would look at is flow rates. But again, just look at the definition of fines, because I've not really seen a pond suffering with fines as I know it with a Nexus running. It's just particles, and you've got to accept a certain degree of particles in your pond. It's completely normal. There's a lot going on in there. And again, I don't know, Kevin, if you've got a window, but I think they've been the biggest culprit in driving people a bit mad with this. If you want crystal clear water with no bits in it, don't keep koi, don't put anything in, just have a body of water, probably run a load of chlorine through it, keep it nice and sterile, and keep it at that. Then you'll have that kind of look that you want. But yeah, without koi, and the minute you've got koi and you're feeding them, there's always going to be something in that water. I can promise you that. So it's just managing expectations there for me. I think I've seen people drive themselves round the twist, up the bend, wherever you want to go with that one, trying to get unobtainable water. Well, what's unobtainable in my opinion? And again, it depends how you look at it, because you look at it from the surface down, looks great. Look at it through a window and you see all these bits that you're never going to get rid of. So yeah, there's mine on that one, Kevin. Just not something I look at. Not to say I never have, because obviously all my time in my dad's shop, that was a big thing for a lot of people. It was a big thing for our water, but that wasn't still looking at it through a window. It just gives a completely different dynamic, that one. Every pond has to have a chag. Yeah, I completely agree, Dave. Again, having some good fun with a few chags I've got at the minute. They are great. And it's trying to find a curious lineage for me with that stuff. But I think, again, from the, yeah, there we go, from the balance perspective of a pond and building that collection out to have that visual impact, the Yam is the one that just really sets it off amongst them for me. So back there you go, guys. If you've got a few quid knocking about for a mint black Zeus, you'll see that over there. But well worth looking. So have a look. Abby is asking, oh, sorry, I missed that. How to reduce phosphate in our Scottish water? It's coming out at 5, no snow. Eric, I'm just going to say stop testing it. Never, I can't remember me ever testing for one. I might have done once out of curiosity, but it's just one of them things. Why? I can't see the point myself. I can't see what it's really doing. If you're having mass extreme blanket weed problems for some reason, it might be worth looking into. But other than that, go with what you've got. If you've got it coming out your tap, you've got it coming out your tap. It's just not something I'm ever going to bother with. And, you know, I say that with complete utter, you know, look at what I'm doing. I don't test for phosphate. There'll be phosphate in there probably at stupid levels. Who knows? It's just another layer of complexity that is just, for me, not worth prattling about with. Personally, that's where I am with that one. God, we've chewed up 55 minutes there quick, folks, haven't we? It's nearly time for my little surprise over on the WhatsApp group. So I'll probably better just give you that code again while I look at the last few questions. If you want to scan yourself in, if you're not already. If you don't like being bombarded with amazing fish on a regular basis, I'd probably suggest you don't join it because I'm a bit of a bugger. But there we go. Take that off. Right, couple more questions and then I will be getting off. And that's say next week I'll make sure the video for the snippet is tried and tested beforehand. Would it be okay to have a roof over the pond to stop rainwater, or best not to have one? This is one of those things, really. If you're having a roof, you've just got to look at what you're doing with UV. But you've got all these compromises, haven't you? You know, I'm not that. A pond is a feature in your garden as well. So there's an element of making all that look nice. Ultimately, a roof, a roof will cut UV transmission quite heavily if you've not got the right kind of material on it, especially if it's a dark roof. That's all I'd consider, because right there, you'll be compromising on what you can potentially deliver with the pigmentation and skin level on your fish. That's guaranteed. Some kind of roof where you've got optional shading is a good thing, because then you've got a bit more control. Because again, too much UV is not a good thing. So you can see there, Lee, from your question, there is scope there for, have a roof if it's set up in the right way, where potentially you've got good UV transmission through it, but then the option to pull some shade in. Fantastic. Well, that's not to say, you know, if it's a darkened pond, your fish will still thrive. They'll be fine. But I'm talking about raising the kind of pigmentation level you see on those fish behind me on them calendars. And without that kind of setup, you're going to struggle to do that. That I can promise you. So there we go. And here we go. My good friend Neil, look, my old mate, my Sparky, done a grand job for me, I must say. I think a few of you have seen the picture, the lights, all the wiring up for the heating system. Yeah, it annoys me, the fact he's so good at what he does, and I do have to remind him and then tell him that he does me head in at the same time, folks. So there we go. Last one. Let's pick one last question. Or one last comment. There we go, Paul. Love my 320 plus. Works to treat water is perfect, even looking through the window. Set turning the pond over every 2 hours. Yeah, that is just coming back to that. The biggest thing I've seen with that over the window, and most filter systems are the same way. It's just whizzing too much water around it because of this silly kind of thing that's been banded around, that you need to turn over as much water as possible. There aren't many systems and people out there that I know that need to be turning water more than once every 2 hours. It's only when you get to the higher stocking, higher feeding, and regular feeding as well. You know, it's just common sense and logic. If you're firing food in every 2 hours, you need to process that through, because there's going to be a big surge of ammonia coming every 2 hours. We've got to get that through the filters and get it passed through. But even then, you've got to look at, if you've got that high, you need that high turnover rate, is how that affects the filter system. And you can mitigate against this. You know, you can have a high turnover through a submerged filter system, but you need to make the size of the filter big enough that you can then get a decent retention time for everything to do its job properly. And this is why I choose showers, because I have my main line through the fluid bed running slowly, and then I get the turnover through the shower because they can handle that flow coming through. So there we go. I hope you found that useful. Good to talk a bit about the filtration stuff. And yeah, there we go, guys. That's it from me for this week. Again, apologies for not having the video or anything else prepared. I'll make sure we get that right for next week. And for now, I'm going to jump over on the WhatsApp channel and share my surprise. Sure enough to say, it's going to be spot on. There's an absolutely shockingly easy clue for you. Right, that's it, folks. So, yeah, fingers crossed we don't get any snow. I'm just trying to find my end card there. And, yeah, join me next week for a bit more of this. And look forward to seeing you then.